So this is Josh back at again with verse number 3 being used to try and critique LDS systems of belief. So with this particular verse, the content creator is using the book of Hebrews chapter 1 verses 1 and 2. To be honest and to be fair, when I'm critiquing this one, I'm not exactly sure what the content creator is actually arguing here. Pretty much everything, not that he says, but everything that he is pointing out to make whatever case he is making, LDS agree with. I don't see any problem with it. So ultimately, I don't know for certain what is being argued. That said, based on inference, I feel like I can reasonably assume what the content creator is trying to argue. So I'm going off of that assumption, knowing that it is unfortunately just an assumption and I might be wrong. But I don't think that I am. So if anybody else is hearing something different in this argument, leave it in the comments, let me know, because I'd like to respond to it fairly. But it sounds to me like the content creator is arguing that since Christ has come, there cannot be any more prophets, revelation, anything new, that Christ was the ultimate end be all for all of that. So that's the assumption I'm going off of. With that, let's hear out what the content creator has to say.
Number 3 is Hebrews 1, 1 through 2. Hebrews is an excellent book. I love walking through a number of the sections with Latter-day Saints, but the very beginning of Hebrews is an awesome section about the gloriousness of Christ. And it also, I think, explains why we don't believe that God works the same way that he did before the coming of Christ. Here's what Hebrews 1, 1 and 2 says. Long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, or latter days, if you will, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world. Really, the thing I want to focus in on is the first 2 verses. In these verses, the author of Hebrews presents a contrast between how God revealed himself long ago and how God has revealed himself in these last days. Long ago, God spoke in various ways to various people. Sometimes God spoke in dreams, sometimes in visions. Sometimes God appeared and spoke face to face, as he did with Moses. Sometimes God appeared in a burning bush. Sometimes he spoke verbally, like at Mount Sinai. There was a whole bunch of different ways that God revealed himself in the Old Testament. In the New Covenant, God has once and for all time revealed himself through his Son. Jesus is the fullness of the revelation of the Father. I often point people to John 1:18, which says, "No one has ever seen God, but the only begotten God who is at the Father's side, he has made him known," or he has revealed him. So the only begotten God, the only begotten Son, Jesus, reveals the Father. This is why when Philip says, "Jesus, can you show us the Father?" Jesus says, "Philip, I tell you, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father." So unlike the various fragmented ways in which God revealed himself in the Old Testament, at the inauguration of the New Covenant, God has once and for all revealed himself in Christ. Jesus is like, you might say, the mic drop of God. Everything that we want to know about the Father is given to us in the Son. And then the New Testament is the record of what God was doing in and through Christ. It's basically like a divine commentary on divine actions. God acts, and then he explains what he just did. So God brings Israel out of slavery in Egypt, and then he tells them what he just did. He gives them the law and says, here's what it means that I redeemed you. So God acts, he makes a covenant, and he explains what's going on, what he just did. The new covenant's the same way. God once and for all acts in Jesus. He reveals himself fully in Christ and then explains to us what he just did. And this is all coinciding with the inauguration of the new covenant, the covenant that the entire Bible was anticipating. So I like using Hebrews 1 to explain how Jesus is our living prophet. He is the final prophet to which all the other prophets were pointing to. He's the better Moses. He's the better Joshua. He's the better Samuel. He's the better David. He's the better Isaiah, Elijah, Jeremiah, and all the rest. He is the fullness of the revelation of the Father, the radiance of the glory of God, and the exact imprint of his nature, as the author of Hebrews says right here.
All right, so responding to this video. hear him say in his critique on by using these verses once and for all. You'll notice it doesn't say that in these verses. He's inserting that into it to further his point. Now, I don't know if maybe he is getting that from a different verse, because there actually is. I investigated this just to be intellectually honest and see maybe this is coming from somewhere. And there actually is a verse in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 26. Got it written at the top there for you. And I'm just going to read it here for you, just so we can get it correct. So it says, "For then he would have had to suffer again and again since the foundation of the world. But as it is, he has appeared once for all at the end of the age to remove sin by the sacrifice of himself." Okay, so if the content creator is referring to this verse, which I don't know, but even if he is, this is saying that this is the final sacrifice. It's in reference to the fact that there no longer needs to be sacrifices within the temple over and over, and that Christ does not need to be sacrificed over and over, that this is a one-time sacrifice for all humanity. Absolutely nothing to do with prophecy or revelation or things in the future. That's inserting a concept that simply is not in the text. Now, I don't know if that's what he was trying to get at, but I'm throwing it out there just in case he was, because the verses that he gives, it does not say what he's saying it says. So if I'm going off of the assumption that this content creator is bringing up these verses to say that prophecy and revelation can no longer be present, there's a number of issues with this within the New Testament canon itself. All right, so I've got all of these things here. So if we're talking about prophecies after Christ, all right, we can look at Acts 11:27, 13:1, 15, 32, 21, 9. Okay, I would refer you to take the time to look at them if this is a subject of interest to you. Okay, these are prophecies that are given after Christ has been resurrected. Okay, and we also see in Ephesians, all right, chapter 4, 8, verses 11 through 13, talking about how Christ gives prophets, pastors, evangelists, teachers for the benefit of the saints. And then we also have areas where we have revelation after Christ. So Acts 9, 3 through 6. Okay, that's the revelation given to Paul the Apostle. Christ reveals himself. We have 10, 9 through 16 in Acts. The Apostle Peter gets a revelation. He's praying up on the rooftop. He receives a revelation from God. And the entire book of Revelations is actually not written until the late 1st century AD, sometime in the 90 to 95 AD. All right, obviously way after Jesus Christ has been resurrected. Okay, so the last days clearly does not equal that prophecy has ended, at least if we're going to go off of the New Testament, which this content creator is attempting to do. Okay, so we see in Acts chapter 2, 17 through 18, it actually refers to the last days and prophecy. Let me read that really quick here. I've got that here. So, in the last days it will be, God declares, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, your old men shall dream dreams. Okay, so this is clearly referring to prophecies and visions that are happening after Christ has been resurrected and is being equated with the last days. Okay, so switch over to what Mormonism actually teaches and what it does not teach. Okay, so Mormonism does not place does not place prophets above Christ, which it sounds like that's what this content creator is trying to argue. It's simply not true. So if I understand him correctly, he's essentially arguing that we have prophets in the Old Testament, Christ came, and now no more prophecy. If we look at the actual New Testament itself, without taking into consideration of any other arguments out there, because there are lots of arguments outside of the New Testament, strictly speaking, with the New Testament itself, I think it pretty clearly shows prophets in the Old Testament. Christ came, Christ established his church, and the church continues. There are apostles and prophets that are set in place to lead the church. Okay, you see prophets, apostles in other places. It just kind of came to me randomly, but I remember in I want to say it's Ephesians, but I can't remember. Paul the apostle is criticizing whom he calls super apostles, people that have these authoritative positions that are being puffed up in their pride. All right, but that goes to show that they do exist there. Okay, and then that there is a continuation of revelation. Okay, so the revelation does not stop. So I feel like this is a pretty easy, straightforward rebuttal. Like I've said multiple times in this, I'm not 100% sure what he is arguing. It seems like a straightforward, poor argument to make. It's obvious that we believe exactly what he's teaching, that Christ is the ultimate authority, that everything that we prophesy, every revelation, all of it points back to Jesus Christ. There is no prophets or revelation over Christ, if that's what he's trying to imply. So I'm going to leave it on that. I truly don't have a lot to say on this one or points to make. It's just, as far as I can tell, easily pointed out just by looking at the New Testament itself.